Peter, you proceed.
I come today as a very disillusioned citizen, and I want to tell you why. My parents came to this country with me when I was 3 years old for the promise of a new life in a democracy where all would have freedom. But to remain free, we must stay vigilant, and we need to require honesty and transparency from those who serve us. We have every right to know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. One of my favorite quotes I read every day is from William Ebbe, the founding editor and publisher of the Catholic Times, who writes, "Let the people have the truth and the freedom to discuss it, and all will go well." But this is not the case in the history of the utilities in this country. Both Sharon Beater, who wrote Power Play, and David Corton, When Corporations Rule the World, write how this truth and the freedom to discuss it is controlled by the utilities and the government. To protect their profits, they control what the public knows through their huge and well-orchestrated public relations media. They carefully shape their image as generous corporate community citizens and align themselves with a popular public interest cause, such as ATC has done with their sponsorship of a children's program about the environment on PBS. Now, in an environmental spotlight ad in the Isthmus regarding the Nature Conservancy and other green groups, also the Gilder Club I hear on the radio, and they sponsor and advertise during school athletic functions. Gee, why would anyone not like ATC? But we must not forget they are a for-profit company, and they are using our utility ratepayer dollars to pay for this good citizen image. And all the while, they challenge citizens like us, who are asking some tough questions about the necessity of these proposed lines. And they attempt to marginalize individuals and communities because they oppose the lines. And always they have the advantage over the rest of us in getting their message out, because they have the money and they have the resources to do it, and we don't. That's a very unfair playing field. I got involved last year in March. I was asked to videotape a meeting, and I knew absolutely nothing about this issue. Only the citizens whose properties would be affected by the proposed lines were at first notified. I began to inform myself and tried to inform others. I joined a coalition of citizen groups to inform the public and demand an independent study. ATC's attempts to control the situation has continued. They challenged our request to become interveners and continue to object throughout the proceedings. We play by the rules of the regulatory process, which also discourages citizen involvement because it's such an exhausting process which requires more time from those of us who work full-time that we just don't have. It requires legal expertise to understand immense piles of documents that must be kept up with. I finally bowed out because this became all too overwhelming, and I resented the intimidation of the interrogatories that requested personal information, the requirements of confidentiality in a public utility case, and giving up all my personal time. This process is designed to wear us down. We also don't have a climate where we feel we can participate. We are made to be afraid to speak out because we know what happens to those who do. They become targeted and derided. They're marginalized. They're called NIMBYs and even retaliated against. Individuals, researchers, and scientists, even journalists, have lost their jobs and grants. Once you step out and speak up, you are suddenly up against a big machine that is intent on destroying your credibility. But we must speak up and stay vigilant, because if we don't look out for ourselves, no one else will. We're fortunate here in Dane County because of a few courageous legislators, the county board, the mayor, the Green Party, and other environmental groups that were courageous enough to stand up. I am also especially concerned, as many citizens are, about the cover-ups by the government and the utilities about the potential health risks. Instead of warning the public and trying to protect us from exposure to EMFs, as they do in other countries, the industry experts continue to tell us there is no cause for alarm and that the evidence is weak and inconclusive when there is indeed a great deal of scientific evidence which they simply suppress and do not report to us. We should be entitled to see this evidence. It is not unreasonable to ask that our electricity be safe. We are not against electricity, we don't need it, but we have every right to expect that our public officials are being forthright with us and are actually looking out for our safety. We need to change the status of public utilities back to not-for-profit, so they once again are serving us, not their own interests. They also should become more locally controlled, so they are accountable to the people they serve. We have a responsibility here to make careful decisions regarding the implications and consequences these lines have for future generations. We citizens should have a voice in these decisions because these decisions affect us. These decisions should not be made merely for profit. We must not allow ATC to keep us in the dark.